We start off today's wrestling news and rumors video with a big update on Alexa Bliss's status and viewpoint on WWE after SummerSlam 2020, and for the fans who were wondering why Alexa Bliss was left off the SummerSlam pay-per-view and did not end up appearing like most fans had expected during Braun Strowman's Universal title defense against the Fiend Bray Wyatt, Alexa is now reportedly feeling the same way as most fans. This morning, a fan had sent a tweet to Alexa Bliss, with a fan asking Bliss where she was last night at SummerSlam, with Alexa replying with a simple answer of, "Good question." Heading into the last couple days before SummerSlam, it cannot be argued that most wrestling fans were under the belief that Alexa Bliss was going to be making her presence felt in a big way at the biggest party of the summer this year, to inevitably cost Braun Strowman the Universal Championship and confirm her new partnership with the Fiend Bray Wyatt. But that did not end up happening, and Strowman ended up losing his Universal title clean to the Fiend with no interruptions until after the match, where Roman Reigns made his rather shocking return to WWE. We had reached out to one of our sources for more clarification on why Alexa Bliss was kept off the SummerSlam card, despite clearly being positioned prior to be a major part of the show, and one source mentioned that it was a last-minute change on the day of SummerSlam to keep Alexa Bliss off the show, with Vince reportedly originally planning for Alexa to come out and reveal herself to be the Fiend's sister Abigail, with her then helping the Fiend solidify a huge win over Braun Strowman. But later in the night, Vince decided otherwise, with Vince McMahon apparently believing Alexa Bliss wasn't needed on the show with Roman Reigns' big return, something that not surprisingly angered Alexa Bliss, considering she believed she would be cementing herself with a new big role alongside the Fiend as Sister Abigail. We have been told that the main reason why Alexa Bliss is somewhat upset right now with WWE is due to the fact that there's lots of uncertainty when it comes to her storyline with the Fiend Bray Wyatt moving forward, because new backstage rumors indicate that the whole Alexa Bliss and Fiend Bray Wyatt storyline may be scrapped altogether now that the big dog is back on SmackDown, and the company will now be moving in the direction of a triple threat rivalry between Roman Reigns, the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and Braun Strowman, heading into next weekend's Payback pay-per-view event. Make sure you guys let us know if you feel that WWE should continue with the Alexa Bliss and Fiend Bray Wyatt storyline on SmackDown, or is it better for the company to simply cancel those plans now that Roman Reigns is back? Last week, one of the biggest WWE news stories was definitely regarding the rumors of Renee Young leaving WWE, and despite the fact that most fans didn't want to see Renee leave, the company confirmed that Renee Young would be leaving following her role at SummerSlam 2020, with Renee Young sending out many tweets this morning with a heartfelt goodbye and also thanking the WWE and the fans for her great time spent with the company. However, the real talking point surrounding Renee Young's departure from the company is certainly in regards to what Renee Young will be doing once she leaves WWE. And like many fans had predicted, one of our sources has mentioned that Renee is very much considering a move to All Elite Wrestling with her husband, Jon Moxley, once her non-compete clause with the WWE runs up later this year, sometime in the early fall of 2020. We have been told that Renee has been in the early stages of talks with AEW over a possible contract with the company, and while it's still unknown exactly what Renee would be doing in All Elite Wrestling, one source has mentioned that Renee could become a commentator or possibly even Jon Moxley's manager. With all this being said, let us know your thoughts on Renee Young choosing to leave the WWE to eventually join AEW, and will you miss Renee Young from appearing in the WWE during kickoff shows and on commentary? Last night at SummerSlam, the WWE put out a teaser letting fans know that former NXT champion Keith Lee would be appearing on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. And for those of you who may be unaware, Vince McMahon reportedly has huge plans for Keith Lee in WWE after being impressed by the monstrous superstar last year, and feels as though Keith could be a true powerhouse heel when he gets called up to the main roster. So fans should definitely be on the lookout for Keith to make a huge impact on Raw tonight when he debuts. As we had reported in one of our previous WWE Rumors and Surprises video, we had mentioned that once Keith Lee lost his NXT Championship, Vince would be calling Keith Lee up to the main roster, and that is reportedly exactly what the WWE are planning to do. And while Keith Lee will be presented as a babyface for the initial start of his run on Monday Night Raw, new backstage rumors have indicated that McMahon plans to eventually turn Keith Lee heel, sometime in late September or early October, where Keith would then be challenging for the WWE Championship. And considering Randy Orton's a heel, compounded by the fact that Keith Lee would be turning heel to challenge for the WWE Championship, this is indirectly letting fans know that Drew McIntyre may be keeping that WWE title through Payback, where it's likely that McIntyre will be defending against Randy Orton once again. Let us know your thoughts on Keith Lee joining the main roster on Monday Night Raw, and do you believe that Vince will give Keith Lee the big push he has been planning for the past several months? Or do you think Keith will be another victim of the typical scenario for NXT call-ups, where they are pushed for a bit but the potential is eventually squandered by Vince? One of the biggest matches heading into last night's SummerSlam 2020 pay-per-view event was definitely the street fight between Seth Rollins and newcomer Dominik Mysterio, and while some fans were sure that Dominik was going to be making a huge impact in his debut match and prove that he was worthy of the quick rise to the top of the main roster, we have been told that Vince McMahon was rather stressed and unsure of how Dominik would react to the pressure of performing in such a high-level spot. However, one of our sources has informed us that following the match, Vince was absolutely thrilled with Dominik Mysterio's performance in the street fight against Seth Rollins, and feels Dominik deserves to be a high-profile superstar as we continue on in 2020. We have been told that Dominik's SummerSlam match against Seth Rollins was a make-or-break moment in the eyes of Vince McMahon, because one source noted that if Dominik had not performed very well, the WWE would have cancelled Dominik's involvement in Rey Mysterio's storyline after the loss to Seth Rollins. So by all means, Dominik rose to the occasion and secured a top spot in WWE. We now have the main story for today's wrestling news and rumors video, and by all means, one moment from last night's SummerSlam 2020 pay-per-view may have changed the landscape of WWE dramatically. Now most fans will likely agree that the main event of SummerSlam between Braun Strowman and the Fiend Bray Wyatt was nothing particularly special or great, especially when you take into account the fact that Alexa Bliss did not get involved in the match. But the big dog Roman Reigns' surprise return after the match ended certainly made up for any lack of excitement during the actual match. And as of right now, the entire wrestling world is buzzing over not only Roman Reigns finally making his return to the WWE after being sidelined for months due to the global situation, but the fact that Roman Reigns returned with a new monstrous look, and seeming as though Reigns will be presented as a heel moving forward. However, while it is clear that Reigns will be setting his sights on the Fiend Bray Wyatt's newly won Universal Championship, breaking new leaked backstage rumors have revealed that Vince is secretly planning for Roman Reigns to also be revealed as a leader of the Retribution faction, something that the WWE had subtly teased at SummerSlam, with Roman's shirt that read, "Wreck everyone and leave," which is the same motto for Retribution, and this is apparently a tease Vince purposely put out at SummerSlam. While there had been some rumors going around that The Miz was going to be the leader of Retribution, one of our sources has mentioned that Vince thinks a heel Roman Reigns will draw even bigger ratings for Friday Night SmackDown, with Retribution backing him, with Vince planning for Roman Reigns and the rest of Retribution to become the most feared faction in WWE history, as they destroy the entire SmackDown roster and then eventually the Raw roster as well. With all this being said, let us know your thoughts on Roman Reigns being legitimately considered to be the leader of Retribution. And overall, what are your thoughts on Roman Reigns following his surprise return and heel turn last night?